Morning, good morning, good morning. I want to say good morning to everyone and welcome to Daring Dialogues. I am your host, Shantae Charles. Thank you all for joining me this morning. We want to say condolences to those who are involved in I did spend some time praying for that, and I did see that they now have the shooter in custody. So we thank God for that. Please continue to, as always, pray for your city, pray for your neighborhood, pray for your surroundings, pray for your environment. When you're out in public, make sure that you are aware and keeping your eyes open. So, good morning to each and every one of you who are coming in. I want to say welcome. If you are new with us for the first time, Daring Dialogues covers a variety of topics. You can also find our Facebook page, Daring Dialogues, where we curate the news so you don't have to. We go looking for articles that matter to you and to us, especially people of color. All right, so feel free to check that page out. Follow the page on Facebook. Good morning, Lady Barbara. Good morning to my husband. Good morning, Pastor Ben. So please keep those families and students who were involved in that school shooting this morning out in Texas. Please keep them in your prayers. Hats off to the student that had enough wisdom that when they realized what was going on, they actually pulled the fire alarm, which alerted all of the students to exit the building. Very, very, very wise Generation Z. So hats off to that student. This morning, I'm going to be going out and presenting to some homeschool groups here where I reside, and some homeschool associations. And my husband redesigned my lovely, wonderful cards. So on top of all of his other many gifted talents and skills, he is also a graphic designer. And if you're looking for excellent quality work, you can reach him, and hopefully he'll be able to type in his email address that you can contact him at. All right, for excellent work. So I'll be handing out my new cards today as I interact with the homeschool community here in my county. All right, and for those of you who are remote, I do also offer online private one-on-one tutoring for students. And those sessions will begin June. And then I will have another set of sessions available in August. So if you are looking for a virtual teacher, if your student takes online coursework and needs help and assistance in tutoring, I tutor K through 12. I also do test prep, SAT, ACT. And I also help adults prep for tests, for professional testing. So if you're interested in any of those services, you can email me at reachshante@gmail.com. Again, that's reachshante@gmail.com. So if you wonder what I do with my summers, that's the other leg of what I offer for the summer. All right. So I did tell you all that we were going to get back into today. We were going to continue talking about the parts that we missed on Healthy, Wealthy, and Wise, which were the 3D body parts being created for technology, and some news. We're going to catch up on some news in medicine. And today we're going to finish the capitalist code. So if you have been reading along with us, you'll be able to mark this off on your have read list for 2018, the capitalist code. All right, so let us get started. The world of medicine. News from the world of medicine. Alzheimer's disease. One marker for Alzheimer's disease could be written all over your face. In a study of 5.6 million men and women, People with rosacea, a skin condition that causes facial redness, were 7% more likely to develop some form of dementia and 25% more likely to develop Alzheimer's disease than were people without the skin condition. The association with Alzheimer's was more prominent for women than men, as well as for patients 60 and under. The study's lead author speculated that certain proteins and inflammatory processes may contribute to both conditions. Other news in the world of medicine: lighter coffee roasts might be healthier, which I find to be very interesting because I tend to buy or drink the lighter roast coffee. Coffee is full of antioxidants which protect cells from damage caused by free radicals. Caffeine is perhaps the best known source of coffee's antioxidant ability, but the beans contain another called chlorogenic acid. Korean researchers have found that while the caffeine level is consistent among most types of coffee, the concentration of chlorogenic acid is lower in darker coffee roasts, a health conscious point to consider for your next cup of joe. Versus viral infections. When patients come in with a respiratory virus such as the common cold or a sinus infection, doctors often send them home with antibiotics. But the pills don't work on viruses. In fact, they can create more bacteria that are resistant to treatment in the future. Now, researchers at the University of Rochester Medical Center have identified 11 genetic markers that signify whether an infection is bacterial. In a study of 94 patients with lower respiratory tract infections, lab tests that checked for the markers correctly identified the infections as viral or bacteria up to 90% of the time. More research is needed, but these tests could help doctors prescribe the right medication or none at all. All right. And if you have seen my previous broadcast on that particular thing with colds and health and medicine, you already know what one of those remedies is to deal with bacteria that could be trying to affect you and lead you to the hospital. Hot pineapple juice. Say it with me. Hot pineapple juice. Drink it. All right. Drink it at the first signs of a cold. Veggie nutrients better absorbed with oil. In an experiment documented in the American Journal of Clinical Nutrition, participants ate salad with varying amounts of soybean oil, a common ingredient in commercial salad dressings. More oil resulted in higher blood levels of several essential nutrients, including vitamin A, lutein, and lycopene. The nutrients came from the salad's vegetables, but the fat in the oil helped participants' bodies absorb them. Just a couple of tablespoons of oil per day could help you get the most out of your healthy diet. Another one here in the world of medicine: zinc may stop esophageal cancer. Although esophageal cancer accounts for only 1% of all cancers diagnosed in this country, it is the 7th most common cause of cancer death among men. Using a technique called fluorescence live cell imaging, a new study discovered that zinc shut down overactive calcium signals unique to esophageal cancer cells, preventing them from multiplying. While more research is needed, the student's lead author recommends a healthy diet that includes food rich in zinc, such as, dum da da dum, drum roll, Mr. Charles, spinach, flax seeds, pumpkin seeds, shrimp, and oysters. Postpartum depression and the seasons. In a study of more than 20,000 mothers, those who gave birth in winter or spring were less likely to suffer from postpartum depression and than were those who gave birth in summer or fall. It's unclear why, but previous studies have linked postpartum depression to low levels of vitamin D. All right. So if you are a new mother, nursing mother, Mother to be, all right, you may want to check your vitamin D levels. A mother's vitamin D levels often decrease throughout the winter and spring when she is not exposed to sunlight as often, so she might lack the nutrient by summer or fall. All right, so that's a little bit for you for news in the world of medicine. And now let's talk about these 3D body parts that are being created. How 3D printers are making human body parts. Now, remember last Friday we talked about how this woman soldier, and I think I put the article on during dialogues, but you can look it up. There was a woman soldier who had lost an ear, and they were growing tissue and growing her ear on her arm. And eventually, as that ear grows out fully, they're going to detach it from her arm and put it back on the side of her head, which is going to be really interesting. I want to definitely see the follow-up on that. New technology is revolutionizing the science of transplants from ears to skin to internal organs. In 2015, more than 125,000 organs, mostly kidneys, were transplanted from one human being to another in the United States. Sometimes the donor was a living volunteer. Usually, though, he or she was the victim of a car accident, a stroke, a heart attack, or a similar sudden event that had terminated the life of an otherwise healthy individual. The lack of suitable donors, particularly as cars get safer and first aid becomes more effective, means the supply of organs is limited. Many people therefore die waiting for a transplant. That has led researchers to study the question of how to build organs from scratch. One promising approach is to print them. Lots of things are made these days using three-dimensional printing, and there seems to be no reason, get this, why body parts should not be among them. As yet, such bioprinting remains largely experimental, but transplantable tissues are expected to be ready for use in a few years' time. Bioprinting originated in the early 2000s when it was discovered that living cells could be sprayed through the nozzles, get this, of inkjet printers without being damaged. Today, using multiple print heads to squirt out different cell types, along with polymers that help the structure keep its shape, it is possible to deposit layer upon layer of cells that will bind together and grow into living, functional tissue. Now, I'm going to tell you the movie that came out some years ago, and God told me to actually go check it out. All right. And then watch this movie. And that movie is called Transcendence. If you have not seen this film, you need to see this film, because in the film, the character literally does this. So I don't want to describe how he does it, because it's a part of the crux of understanding the whole film. But now people are actually doing this. Okay. Researchers are tinkering with kidney and liver tissues, skin, bones, and cartilage, as well as the networks of blood vessels needed to keep body parts alive. Now, please understand how this can possibly play into the uptick in crime that we see, the uptick in the kidnapping of people that we see, the uptick in organ trafficking that we see. Because if all they need are your blood and your cells to rebuild parts, this is going to pose some, if it has not already, is going to pose some ethical questions with science. All right. They have implanted printed ears and also muscles into animals and watch these integrate properly with their hosts. Host would be the test subject. All right. So they're already doing this and experimenting with animals to see if it works. Last year, a group at Northwestern University even printed working bioprosthetic ovaries for mice. The recipients were able, listen to this, the recipients were able to conceive and give birth with the aid of these artificial ovaries and organs. I want you to think about what that means for the traditional family. All right. So they're creating ovaries and they're implanting them in their host, and their host is able to give birth with the aid of these artificial organs. What will that bring for the future when it comes to family, when it comes to same-sex couples having children? No one is yet talking of printing gonads for people, but blood vessels are a different matter. Sichuan Revitech, a biotechnology company based in Chengdu, China, has successfully implanted a printed section of artery into a monkey. This is the first step in trials of a technique intended for use in humans. Similarly, in Organovo, a firm in San Diego, California, announced that it had transplanted printed human liver tissue into mice and that this tissue had survived and worked. Within 3 to 5 years, Organovo hopes to develop this procedure into a treatment for chronic liver failure and for inborn errors of metabolism in young children. The market for such treatments in America alone, the firm estimates, is worth more than $3 billion a year. That's just the beginning estimates. Johnson & Johnson is so convinced that bioprinting will transform parts of medical practice that it has formed several alliances with interested academics and biotechnology firms. One of these alliances with Tissue Regeneration Systems is a firm in Michigan, is intended to develop implants for the treatment of defects in broken bones. Another, with Aspect Biosystems Ltd., a biotechnology company in Canada, is trying to work out how to print parts of the human knee, known as the meniscus. These are crescent-shaped cartilage pads that separate the femur from the tibia and act as shock absorbers between these two bones. All right, so here is one they actually have a picture of here for you. I want you to take a good look at it. All right, and I will read you the caption on it, but I want you to be able to see it. Okay, calling it. So pay attention to these words, vocabulary, new language in the earth. Regenerative medicine use 3D printers to create porous frames of a human ear that the printer's bio-ink nozzles fill with the human cells. The finished ear is put into an incubator to be preserved. All right, so let's go that real quick. The printer creates the frame. All right. Psalm 139, where it says God knits us together in our mother's womb. Well, they want to knit you together. Okay. The printer creates the frame, and then they take the human cells and they fill in, and those cells begin connecting with each other inside of the frame that they created. All right. And then the ear is put into an incubator to be preserved. Playing that role causes a lot of wear and tear, so surgical repair is often required. Bioprinting can help with the development of other treatments. Organovo already offers its kidney and liver tissue for use in testing new drugs for effectiveness and safety. That should please animal rights activists, such as such tests cut down on the number of animal trials. It should please drug companies too. Because the tissue being tested is human, The results should be more reliable than those from tests on other species. So you got to ask yourself some questions. Where are they getting the human cells from? Where are they getting the human tissue from to do these experimental tests? And if you think that this may not be connected to organizations like Planned Parenthood, all right, who has tons of fetal tissue from people actually aborting the children that God created, think again. All right. With similar motives in mind, I want you to pay attention to the companies that are involved in this. They've already mentioned Johnson & Johnson, L'Oreal, a French cosmetics firm, Procter & Gamble, an American consumer goods company, and BASF, a German chemical concern, are working on printing human skin. Let me say it again. L'Oreal, Procter & Gamble, okay, and BASF, which is a German company, are working on printing human skin. They propose to use it to test their products for adverse reactions. L'Oreal, listen, L'Oreal already grows almost 54 square feet of skin each year using older and slower technology. Bioprinting will be faster and also allow different skin types and textures to be printed. Printed skin might eventually be employed for grafts, repairing burns, and ulcers. Plans are also afoot, as it were, to print skin directly onto the surface of the body. Renovacare, a firm in Pennsylvania, has developed a gun that will spray skin stem cells directly onto the wounds of burn victims. Stem cells are cells that proliferate to produce all the cell types that a tissue is composed of. If the stem cells in question come from the patient himself or herself, there is no risk that the immune system will reject the new tissue. The real prize of all this effort would be to print entire organs. All right. So all of this experimenting is really getting down to printing organs, printing arteries, because if I can print organs and I can print arteries and I'm already printing skin, then what does that mean? What are we actually trying to do? Because clearly they don't expect the population to be smart enough to figure out that they're trying to build humans, all right? The real prize for all this effort would be to print entire organs. It's a way of getting around the laws that we already have about cloning by printing, all right? Think about it. We have laws against human cloning, but we don't have anything in place about printing organs and skin and tissues and building a human like you would build a bear. For kidneys, root analysis, a medical technology consultancy reckons that should be possible in about 6 years to build a kidney. Livers, which have a natural tendency to regenerate, should also arrive reasonably soon. Hearts, with their complex internal geometries, will take longer. In all cases, though, printed organs would mean that those needing transplants have to wait neither for the altruism of another nor the death. You will only just really need to be a very, very wealthy person to buy these printed organs to save your life. All right. So researchers have yet to successfully attach a 3D printed ear to a human. The ear on the right is actually a silicone prosthesis. All right. So they're still working on growing ears. They have not yet successfully attached one to a human, but they're working on ears and kidneys and livers, etc. All right. Hope I gave you some insight there into what is going down in the world of medicine while we're jumping and shouting in churches. Just thought you might want to know. Okay, moving right along. The capitalist code, it can save your life. Somebody asked me, do I have Bible study? I said, sure I do. I have Bible study Monday through Friday, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can join us. All right. We are completing the book, The Capitalist Code, It Can Save Your Life. Making your money work for you is where we are taking off today. And we're going to continue through. We're talking now about the glory of life. We're going to cover liquid assets equal action. And then we're going to talk about the belly of the pig. Talking about investing. And then we're going to end with our conclusion and the key lessons of this book, which are 7 key lessons. So if you're taking notes, make sure you are ready for those. And then we're going to look at some actuarial tables. And you can put a number up that represent your age. And they actually have a table that tells you about how many more years remaining in your life according to life expectancy. And then we're going to close out there. All right. So is everybody ready? You have something to drink. You have pen. You have paper. Let's go. Make your money work for you. To go back to my model citizen, Ben Stein writes, genius classmate Duncan Kennedy, yes, by all means, work and save, but work as intelligently as you can and put your money to work as intelligently as you can. There's a vast amount of data on how to make your money really put in an 8-hour day for you, or maybe a 24-hour day. This is not a brand new field of study. There's a mountain of good data out there, and here are a few bits of guidance. Take advantage of all tax subsidies. As the great Frank Knight said, there's a huge subsidy in federally favored retirement accounts. As I am writing this, there are individual retirement accounts, IRAs, which are pretty much what they sound like. You can save a certain percentage of your income and deduct it from your taxable income as you save it. Right now, the percentage you can put into an IRA is about 15% of your income with a limit of about $15,000. These numbers are approximate. If you make these deposits when you are at your peak earnings and peak tax rate years, your savings are substantial. Heavy emphasis. We do not know how Mr. Donald Trump and his Congress will change this, if at all. And we know that he has changed some of that. So you need to be up on what's coming for 2019. It would be stunning if the entire program were deleted, since retirement concerns are an immense amount of the brain space of most middle-aged prime voting years Americans. But then it was also stunning that Mr. Trump won the election. Of course, it's not really free money. You have to pay tax on it when you withdraw it at retirement age. If you withdraw it before retirement age, you will pay a hefty penalty to the man. I know some of us have had to withdraw for various reasons. Either you had a life crisis and you had to withdraw funds, or some people use it for investing in their own businesses. All right. So those are times if you're withdrawing before your retirement age, you will pay a penalty. At present, that means you might have to pay a penalty of about 10% plus your income tax rate on premature withdrawals from your IRA. If you have some kind of family emergency, like a chronic illness, major injury, you can withdraw without penalty, but that gets complicated fast. Even if you do wait until retirement age, you have to pay tax on the withdrawals as you make them. They are taxed at the ordinary income tax rate for the year in which you make the withdrawal. The thought when IRAs were first conceived of about 50 years ago was that when workers retired, their incomes would be substantially lower than they were when the workers were working. That meant there would be a substantial saving on taxes. Plus, the funds in the IRA would be allowed to grow and compound without tax. So that would be a substantial tax benefit as well. We do not know what future tax rates will be, even a very short distance into the future. The trend has been down, 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 but the deficit has gone up, up, up. And some that decides to do the responsible thing and raise taxes to try to reduce the deficit instead of throw tax reductions at the voters in return for votes. Well, we saw what happened. They did the latter. They threw tax reductions at certain voters in return for their votes. If we ever have a president who wants to do that, and if she really wanted to attack the national debt, now at about 20 trillion, we might be facing a hefty tax increase indeed. For now, however, with what we do know, there's a major tax subsidy for retirement savings. Take advantage of it. That is the simple part. What you do with the money, that's a bit more complex, but not overly so. There are also 401ks and their ilk. These are plans in which the pre-retiree pays money into an account jointly filled up with his or her employer. The money that the employee puts in is tax deferred. The money that compounds is tax deferred. However, this is a bit of a disappointment in many cases because the money you invest must be put into a selection of funds controlled by your employer and chosen by the employer. These may well not be funds you would have chosen if you had free choice. Employers choose funds for 401ks or 401k-like investments based on motives that are sometimes hard to figure out. Then there are tax-deferred savings accounts for college and other higher education plans. These are used by only a small fraction of the population, and they do not aim at the 800-pound gorilla in the room, which is your retirement. However, the biggest and most powerful tax tool for you is the one that has made Warren Buffett and many others rich. Converting short-term taxable income into long-term, very highly tax-advantaged capital gains income. This is the crux of this little book. The glorious complex that leads to becoming a pre-dad, becoming the most envied of barnyard animals, the capitalists, by saving in the most intelligent way possible, by using tax advantages on a massive scale as they existed under President Obama and are likely to grow under Mr. Trump. By hooking up to the most potent money-making machine in human history, the corporation is simply this. From the earliest possible age you can do so, buy and hold common stocks in a large variety of public corporations in the United States and hold on to them until you retire and need the income they provide by selling them. Here's how this miracle of tax savings work. If you buy stock in a successful corporation, and the ones that are large and have been around for a while are almost all successful, you buy a claim on dividends that these corporations pay out year by year, quarter by quarter. Now, let me say something here, because he wrote this book before we started to see what began to happen in 2017 and most of 2018. And that is, pay attention to all of the major brands and companies that have been around, as he said, for a very long time that are now closing. All right. So what does that mean for people who are just now getting into the market if they're telling you that the way you can build your wealth is by investing in these larger companies who have been around 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 years? And all of a sudden, those reliable companies are now closing down. What does that say? What does that say for the future of the market? Somebody's going to put two and two together very shortly. All right. So the people who have been invested in the stock market, they may make out pretty well once all of these companies go belly up. But What about the people who are just jumping into the market who haven't had that time and the family generations to build that wealth before these companies come crashing down? All right. So please think about that. You get the pleasure of having the money jingle in your pocket, but you also have to pay tax on it. The rate on dividends has fluctuated wildly over the recent past, but let's say it's 25% just as an approximation. If you have the stock of a typical large corporation, the corporation will pay only a small fraction of their income in dividends. It reinvests the rest in the machinery or factories or minerals or leases or anything it wishes to buy. In a very general way, this adds to the book value of the corporation. The book value is, again, very general. The assets of the corporation minus the liabilities. This book value grows inside the corporation like a baby inside its mother. It is not taxed as it grows, except in very rare instances. All right. This book value can fall as when there are economic downturns and accountants mark down the value of the assets while the size of liabilities over substantial periods, book value tends to grow. You can research how book value grows at www.gurufocus.com. So you are accumulating a fistful of stocks over the years and decades of your work life. You don't own all or even a meaningful share of a large corporation, but you own a tiny percentage of the total value of a number of stocks that become an extremely meaningful part of your net worth. If you do this in the proper dimensions, which means as much as you can, you soon have an asset larger in value than your home. This asset grows more or less trouble-free. Whenever I discuss acquiring assets with dentists or oculists who say that instead of stock, they buy duplexes and fourplexes, many of them insist that rental housing is superior to stocks because you are your own CEO and you don't have to pay outrageous wages to managers. They're totally right. If you are having problems with Periscope, please let me know. If you can see and hear me, please tap on the hearts. That's one way that will help me to know that everybody can see and hear me. All right. I know many of you are not typing into the chat box. But if you can see and hear me, press the hearts. All right. And I'll give a few seconds for that. If not, I will turn off the Periscope and then I will come back in. Lady Judy says YouTube also freezes sometimes. All right. It might be the weather where we are. So let me pause because we've got about 20 more minutes. Let me pause for the Periscope people and I will come back in. We've got some. Good morning, good morning, good morning. We have some weather issues here. This is day 2. So thank you all for your time and patience as we get this back up. All right. Okay. Okay. Lady Barbara says she switched to YouTube as well. All right. I just brought back the Periscope. So Lady Barbara, if you could pop back over there and see if you can see and hear me clearly, press the hearts. All right. If you can see and hear me clearly, press the hearts. All right. I see people coming into Periscope, but I don't see anybody letting me know that they can see and hear me. Lady Andrea, if you can see and hear me clearly, press some hearts. If you can see and hear me clearly, press the hearts so I know that you can see and hear me clearly. Great. Hopefully Pastor Ben and the others will be able to come back in. Lady Barbara, if you can see and hear me clearly, press the hearts. All right, so it will help me if you press the heart so that I know that you can see and hear me as we finish up today. All right, I don't want to be talking to a freezing screen. All right. This asset grows more or less trouble-free. Whenever I discuss acquiring assets, as we said, the dentist and the oculist say that rental housing is superior to stocks because you're your own CEO. They, the rental real estate owners, are the CEOs, treasurers, and chief operating officers themselves. That's fine for them. But they are also the plumbers, the electricians, the sheriffs, and hate objects of their tenants. So if you don't mind all of that, then yes, go ahead and invest in real estate processes. They don't have to worry about the day-to-day fluctuations of the stock market and about stock market panics. That's a load off their minds. But they do have to answer calls at 3 in the morning from the police about shootouts at their fourplexes. They do have to unclog toilets or hire someone while they're on their way to their children's weddings. They have to get bat dung out of the crawl space in the attic. They have to identify bodies. They have to receive death threats when they participate in evictions. To me, this saving of time and fear is meaningful. To me, knowing that my tenants are not going to be smoking cigarettes so horrible that the stench wrecks every cubic inch of the apartment is worth a lot. Not having to fear that my tenant will shoot at me when I come to ask for rent, that's worth something too. And while the property barons don't have to worry about moment-by-moment changes in their real estate unit values, the values of their units can and does move up and down furiously, usually over events like recessions, crime waves, or demographic changes. Tenants can and do skip town owing months of rent. It's as if you owned a stock that pays a dividend, but corporations pay their dividends like clockwork. The same cannot be said of that college dropout who just signed the lease for your apartment. If you're depending on rent to service the mortgage, you can be in real trouble. Obviously, most tenants will be solid citizens, but the ones who are not can ruin your day after day. I know this to be true. It's happened to me in one of the best neighborhoods in Aspen, Colorado. And again, yes, you won't see day-to-day panics in real estate value, but real estate prices do move, and often in painful ways for the owners. There are such things as long-term plateaus and even downward slopes in rental property value. There are down years and even down decades for rental owners. They are rare, but they do happen. Rentals can be great stuff and often are, but there are no perfect real estate models nor perfect models of any other investment good. Liquid assets equal action. Here's the huge advantage of stock. They have perfect liquidity. Their owners can convert them to cash in less than a minute when they need money. And that liquidity is a gorgeous thing. Stocks have it, real rental estate does not. This is a big thing. When you need money in a hurry and cannot get it, you suffer. That does not happen with publicly traded stocks. It happens a great deal of the time with real property. Liquidity is a marvelous gift. Ignore it at your peril. My beloved father, the genius economist Herbert Stein, told me that one of the key lessons of life is simply this: liquid assets equal freedom. Liquid assets equals freedom. This is so true at 2 in the morning when fear of financial insecurity makes its evil way into your brain. To be sure, rental real estate is a great thing, providing tax advantage, the ability to build wealth, the capacity to absorb family members' work efforts, sometimes the pride of ownership. But the aggravation and illiquidity of it does frighten me. I have some rental real estate. In fact, a good chunk of my assets are in real property rentals in the form of mini store warehouses. But these are all in the form of publicly traded real estate investment trusts, or public partnerships. Another item, owners of rental real estate often brag about how the value of their units goes up as their rents rise. That's completely true, but those rents are fully taxable, although with many deductions. The buildup of your book value in your stocks is not taxable at all until you sell. That is a major gift. Now hear this. All kinds of factors affect the price at which your common stocks sell. The appeal of competing securities such as bonds, the interest rate, which greatly influences the value of future earnings, macroeconomic events like waves of fear or optimism. But generally, and over a long period, the value of your stock is correlated to a large extent with its book value. If you don't believe me, why should you? Believe Warren Buffett. There's a reason he includes tables of the growth of book value in his BRK Berkshire Hathaway in the beginning of every annual report. He is happy when it goes up. He knows he's getting richer. The same applies to you. That means your stocks tend to go up over time as their book value more or less grows. Again, this is in general. It's rough around the edges, but it is very important. So your investment in common stocks tends to grow tax deferred as long as you own the stock. There are exceptions and long dismal periods. Sometimes these are extremely long and extremely dismal. But over long time spans, it's true. Book value grows and the stock price grows. Meanwhile, the investment security, usually stocks that hold the book value, is as liquid as champagne, and it won't give you a hangover. The whole stock system in present-day America is like one huge tax deferral system with fabulous liquidity perks and immense IRA for all investors. You ignore it or disdain it at your peril. Take advantage of all subsidies. The whole corporate system involves an immense tax subsidy, at least so far. Chapter 5, The Belly of the Capitalist Pig. Sound investing can make you very wealthy if you're not in too big of a hurry. Now, let's summarize what we have learned into 7 points. Let's say, for instance, you're a mature man or woman. You're no longer employed. Social Security is a joke. Your employer stopped offering pensions or 401ks long ago. Or else, because you did not pay attention, you did not put enough into them, and they are trivial compared with your needs. Or your investment choices were poor or just not in good judgment. Your parents maybe are in heaven. Your siblings would no more consider sacrificing for your comfort and security than they would have need money fast. You don't need it for a large sailing boat or a home on the beach in the Bahamas. You need it just to pay your rent or your car payment or maybe a family member's lawyer fees. What do? Who is there to help the older you, to help the good older you? The only you that is available to help the older you is the younger or middle-aged you. You have to be the one who looks out for you in your old age or when you are ill or need money for an accident or crisis. What will the younger you have available for the older you? Where will be the means to a decent life? Why in the belly of the capitalist pig? In being a pre-dad yourself. In hitching yourself and your welfare up to the gleaming chariot of the corporate stock system. In attaching your future and your family's future to the mightiest engine of prosperity there has ever been, the free market capitalism system. And specifically, to attach yourself to that entity through the ownership of stocks. In sum, salvation lies in becoming a wise capitalist. I do not for a moment say it's the only way to amass wealth and well-being. I just say that it's one of the best and easiest ways for any ordinary investor. Real estate is fine, but stocks are better in terms of real return and in terms of the ease of management. But if you are smart, and we know that you are, you're thinking, Well, how do I know what stocks to buy? And how do you know what stocks are better than other investment vehicles? Where is your data? I thought you would never ask. It just so happens that my friend on this earth, Phil DeMuth, is a gifted money manager and investor. He and I have spent immense chunks of our lives discussing how to invest. You can check out my other books on the subject specifically of investing. We were able to verify that it is possible to build a solid money-making portfolio of stocks, bonds, and cash so simple that no one has any excuse at all for not doing something at least somewhat like it. I don't want to hog the credit for these discoveries. Others far smarter than I have made similar findings that show how an amateur investor with little time or no education in finance can make excellent returns in the stock market over very long periods of time, and even over medium lengths of time. We, along with others in the field, have found that in some ways, inexperience and lack of innovation can be a major plus. It has been proven beyond a shadow of a doubt that over time, investors who do not trade, who do not read or follow newsletters, who do not pay for expensive advisors, can get great returns by just buying the market. It is not necessary to spend hours on the computer researching stocks. All you have to do is buy and hold an index of all the largest stocks in the USA and hold on to them and add to them regularly. If possible, you should add a steadily increasing amount each month or each quarter. You can go to a Merrill Lynch or a Vanguard or an Oppenheimer or a Fidelity and tell the woman at the desk that you want to open an account that holds as its primary asset an index fund or an exchange traded fund, which is similar. The index fund will hold all 500 stocks in the Standard & Poor's Industrial Stock Index. You will own a microscopic part of all the largest companies in America. You don't ever have to trade. You don't have to check the prices hour by hour or even year by year. Just buy the index and hold on to it and add money to it. Yes, there are fabulously smart, well-paid men and women on Wall Street and in Cambridge, Massachusetts, who minutely study the stocks. They are hardworking and well-educated people. Yes, they are trying to do their best for the investors, but the amazing truth is that these people who manage money, who pick stocks for immense investment vehicles, are beaten in performance by the plain old indexes about 80% of the time. This apparently first came to the attention of Wall Street after World War II. So, what we do know is that extremely brilliant scholars of finance, especially the stellar genius named Burton Malkiel of Princeton, have studied the subject extensively. He and many others have found that while there may be superstars who can pick stocks and get better results than you would by just buying the index, generally you will do better buying and holding the index. Keep it, add to it, and forget about it. Don't feel bad about those well-paid analysts. They will get along somehow. So, again, I intend no disrespect to stock pickers. I intend nothing but respect to money managers. I know lots of them, and they are uniformly fine people. The sad truth is, though they really want to help you pick stocks, they almost never do. Don't try to outguess the market. Buy the S&P, stay with it, and laugh all the way to the bank. I agree, it's true. Those billionaire hedge fund guys, men and women in tailor-made clothes, will find reasons to tell you that you can and must listen to them. And maybe you should, but you should buy the index unless you are a sophisticated person who understands stocks. It really does work. The answer to this has been helpfully given by yet another basic, spectacular brain named Jeremy Siegel, a shining light at Wharton. He says, "My preferred holding period is forever." How long should you hold on to your stocks? Forever. The data is overwhelming. Over periods of time, roughly commensurate to a typical working person's life, an index of common stocks very much outperforms bonds or cash, the two alternative investments most usually thought of for use by many. There will be terribly cruel downtimes. There will be times when stocks seem to be high, and there will be times when you can get crushed. But over long periods, if you keep holding and keep buying, all right, you will come out far ahead of where you would be with just bonds, or worse, if you try to rejigger your portfolio constantly to adjust to what will certainly be temporary periods. I'm not going to reinvent the wheel here. Dr. Siegel has made his point powerfully in his best-selling book, Stocks for the Long Run. That's what it's about, and if you read it, you will be in awe. Conclusion with our 7 points. It is not from the benevolence of the butcher, the brewer, or the baker that we expect our dinner, but from the regard to their own self-interest. We address ourselves not to their humanity, but to their self-love, and never talk to them of our own necessities, but of their advantages. Adam Smith, The Wealth of Nations. So, the 7 key lessons of this book. Number 1, free market democratic stock market capitalism is a phenomenal system for creating freedom and wealth for societies and nations. Number 2, this system is an effective way for individuals to become well-to-do or even rich. Number 3, the people who tell you that capitalism is evil and exploitive for draining the blood of workers and non-whites may be exaggerating. There is no freer, more diverse, more equal opportunity employer than capitalism. Capitalists have no interest at all in your skin color or your sexuality. They only want to see what you can produce. If you can produce more than you cost, you get and keep a job. If you can produce a large amount of excess over your costs, you get well paid. If you produce very much more than you cost, you get rich. All right? The people who tell you differently are deeply incorrect as a matter of theory and fact. Number 4, in this life, the acquisition of money is of paramount importance. In this life, the acquisition of assets that produce income is life or death. The absolute surest, simplest way to do that is by owning a diversified index of stocks. Number 5, the preferred holding period is forever. Number 6, there is an immense tax subsidy built into owning stock through the non-taxation of run-ups in book value until the stock is sold, and also in terms of the vastly lower taxes on income from capital gains than from labor. Take advantage of your subsidies now. If you're in a job that allows you to do 401k, where your employer matches, take advantage of the highest amount matched of match funds. And if your employer offers IRAs, take advantage of them. Number 7, the goal is not to play the market. That way lies insanity. The goal is to become a pre-dad and end up owning your own business made of many shares of the biggest American business called Wall Street. They're all on Wall Street, and Wall Street makes it super easy to invest in them. So now you go. And as to when to start, it's simple. Begin at once and do the best you can. Final note. The number 1 tax saving tip. Let your corporate income compound without tax inside the corporation, then pay capital gains rate on it when it sells. So these are actuarial life tables, and this is also called a mortality table or a death chart. This information is strictly statistical. It does not take into any consideration personal health information or lifestyle information. This has been provided by the U.S. Census and Social Security Administration. All right. So when you are investing, when you're looking at retirement plans, when you're doing life insurance, these are some places that might be using the actuarial table. All right. So what it is, and I'll show it to you. is it has a men's side and it has a woman's side, and it shows based on how old you are, how much years remaining that they expect you to maybe have in life. Now, thankfully, God is the one who. So, for example, if you are a woman who is now 30 years old, according to the actuarial table, you would have about 51.5 years remaining in your life. All right. And so they would use this table to kind of estimate how much money you should be saving if you have that much estimated time left in life to live. That's just one example. If you are a man aged, say, 64, according to the actuarial table, you still have about 17.9 years of life left. So if you're starting that late in life trying to build some savings, they're going to go with how much time you have left in life, because you have more time, you have less time ahead of you than you did if you were a 25-year-old male, so to speak. All right. Consumer Price Index just estimates interest on money. For example, 18 cents in 1945 is about $2.44 right now in 2018. So we are done reading the capitalist code. All right. I hope that you have learned something about investing and investments. I know my real estate people out there. I know a lot of people who own real estate. But as he said, it can be a very time-consuming endeavor. So if you don't have the patience for owning real estate and owning rental property, you definitely want to look at, as he said, buying the index, sticking with the S&P and investing in stock. And as he said, how long do you hold on to stock? Forever. All right. And we know how the stock system got started in the first place. So we know and understand why the dominant society is 220 years ahead in wealth as opposed to everyone else. All right. Yeah. So slaves were cash, capital, and credit. They got transferred into the stock exchange system. That system has been passed down through generations of white families. That wealth has accumulated. So yes, they are 220 years ahead of us when it comes to wealth. All right. But you can still utilize the system. So this has been another episode of Daring Dialogues, and I have been your host today. I hope that you have learned something that will help you. If you just jumped in, make sure you catch part 1 because we covered news in medicine, and also we covered what's happening in technology. So you definitely want to go back and hear that. And we are nearing our 1 million heart mark. So maybe we have made it past this episode. If not, I will see you all on the weekend, Sunday, 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We'll be back at our apostolic hub in Culpeper, Virginia, ministering the word of God. So you can join us here online. You can check out our ministry page, Life Nation, on Facebook, and check us out over there. All right. I want to thank you for your time and attention. Take care. And remember, light is the most daring opposition to darkness. So please go out today and be light. Thank you again. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye-bye now.